think a lot of people build their mindsets around trying to feel good. So that's why we were talking earlier about people who want to ignore the idea of personal responsibility or self-accountability because they feel better if they pretend it's not a real thing. They feel better if they pretend everything's someone else's fault. A lot of people's mental model and how they view the world is based around them feeling as good as possible. So when you sit there and talk to somebody who has the mask on and they refuse to believe the elites are laughing at them, it's not because they can't comprehend the ideas, it's because they feel better if they don't believe that they are a clown to the elites. I feel better if this is really all innocent and it's really all about a disease. So people are they're basing their mindsets around trying to feel good. I have always tried to base my mindset around absolute competence regardless of how I feel. And there are certainly disadvantages to that. There are times you're going to be a lot more pessimistic, or you're going to be a lot more stressed, or a lot more, pissed off about certain things than others. Yeah, that can be seen as a downside. But like I said, I use all of those things for unlimited motivation to propel my endless upward trajectory. But if you construct a mindset that allows you to be as competent as possible, as opposed to feel any different or feel better, then you're going to naturally come to the conclusions I've come to. You're as competent as possible if you believe you can affect absolutely everything about your life. You're as competent as possible if you believe absolutely everything that's happened to you, whether good or bad, is completely your fault. You're as competent as possible if you believe the bad things that happen to you are going to allow you to work harder and become even better. When bad things happen to me, the first thing out of my mouth is good. Good. Andrew, they took $10 million out the bank because they canceled you. Good. Good. That's just my response. Good. Andrew, this happened. Good. Good. Now I'm really pissed. Good. This mindset I've constructed allows me to be as fearsome a competitor as possible. It allows me to be a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor, and that's the point of a mindset. Why would you have a mental model or a mentality that made you anything less? In the ultra competitive world that we've just discussing that everybody wants the things you have, why would you absorb information or construct a mental model that doesn't allow you to be as competitive as possible? I am a feared competitor in anything I do. Anyone who's up against me at anything is going to feel a degree of nervousness just because it's me. It doesn't matter what it is. If you say, look, you're going to go learn how to play piano and you're going to play against someone else who's never played piano and you're going to learn, and that guy's Andrew Tate, you're going to be like, oh, for fuck's sake. I can't even play piano. But part of them is going to be like, oh, not Tate. Even though I have no piano experience, because they just know me. They know my mindset. They know my determination. They know I'm stubborn. They know I don't quit. They know I'm going to win. That's just who I am. So I've constructed a mental model that allows me to be competent and to always succeed. And that's how I've come to the conclusions I've come to. And I truly, once again, don't understand how people go through the world with any other mental model. I get asked all the time, but what do you feel? Or what about happiness or depression? That doesn't even... How I feel doesn't cross my mind. I don't know how else to explain it. There are days where I'm pissed off or sad or happy. It doesn't cross my mind. It's just like I woke up, whatever mood I happen to be in, I have things I need to do. It's a busy day. Zuby's here soon. I need to go training before he gets here. I had a meeting with the bank at 7:15 a.m. I have shit to do. I didn't cross my mind if I was happy, sad, excited. I just had to work. So I think my mental model, to a degree, I'm certainly not a person who doesn't feel emotions, because we're all human. I certainly do. But I've never prioritized them in any regard. I haven't built a mental model that I haven't put them in the middle of my mental model and then affected my actions based on how I feel for each one. It's absolutely and completely the opposite. I would love to do a podcast on a day where I'm particularly sad and a podcast on a day when I'm particularly happy. And I guarantee you wouldn't be able to tell the fucking difference. So that's what allows me to be competitive, right? Because if you're competitive, if you want to be the most competitive predator on the planet, you have to be able to hunt in the day and the night. You have to be able to do both. You have to be able to perform when you're happy and sad. You can't only be able to perform when you're happy. You can't only go to the gym when you're motivated. You can't only be a competent person when your life's going well, because when your life's not going well, you're no longer competent. Then you're going to lose to people like me. And it's player versus player. If you're the kind of person who can only do well when you're happy and you're competing against someone like me who can do well all the fucking time, guess what? You lose. So my mental model, the answer is most of my opinions are just based around constructing a mental model that allows me to be brutally competitive. It's why I say depression isn't real. I've argued this point endlessly. And I try and explain to people, but they're not smart enough to understand that I don't care if I'm wrong. I don't care. I am more competitive as an individual if I don't believe I can become depressed. So I don't give a fuck if I'm right or wrong, because no matter what bad happens to me in my life, even if, heaven forbid, the worst things on earth that could happen to me, I could never become clinically depressed, because I would never self-diagnose myself as clinically depressed, because I don't believe in it. I believe that I am currently sad, but I have work to do, and eventually I will feel better. I will never get to a point of absolute desperation and kill myself, because I'm never going to get to a point of hopelessness, because I don't believe in the idea of hopelessness. You cannot try and make me adopt thinking that will reduce my competitiveness as an individual. So I don't give a fuck if I'm wrong. I don't believe in it. That's it. End of story. So I don't believe in things that take power away from me. I don't believe in things that make me less competitive, and I don't adopt mental models that make me less competitive. Every single mental model I have are the most efficient ones I could find. To the mental model I found that if I adopt, I become a more fearsome predator. That's it. So this is how I've come to all of my conclusions as an individual.
My only weapon against all of these people and all this garbage is to smile. There are people sitting in a dark room right now. There are people in a room right now as we speak, full-grown adults, professionals, trying to put me in jail. There are teams. There's a prosecutor and his underlings sitting there, analyzing my entire life, every message I've ever sent, everywhere I've ever been, and what I've ever spoken to, ever. As we speak, trying to put me back in a dungeon. At the same time, there are people sitting around trying to cancel me, get me off the internet, make sure I have no influence, no work. They're sitting there. They've frozen all my bank accounts, have taken almost 20% of my car collection. Almost. They've put me in jail, and they've done all this to me, and they're sitting there trying to attack me, and I smile. That's my weapon. That's my weapon. They go to jail. I don't care. And that resilience is how I fight against them, because I believe this is a spiritual war more than anything else. The reason they're trying to attack me is because I'm seen as a hero to so many young boys, and that inspires bravery in the young boys. So they're trying to kill the hero. So I can't allow them to make me sad or miserable or depressed. I refuse. I refuse. I will smile in my jail cell. I refuse to be afraid or scared or depressed. Happiness wins. Love wins. I'm happy. Shoot me. I'll smile. If they were to come and put a gun in my face and say, time's up, I'd say, I knew you were gonna bang. That's the weapon. What else am I supposed to do?
Are you still having nightmares?
My nightmares are gone, and you know what? I'm gonna be very open about this. I'm genuinely sad about that.
Sad about what?
My nightmares leaving me.
Right.
Because it was a new level to the game of life, I guess.
New experience.
It was interesting. It was kind of fun, like before I go to sleep. In jail, I had that. There's my room. I'm glad I went to jail in the winter. I guess it'd be a lot worse in the summer, but there was a really bad infestation of cockroaches, and they were always in the blankets. And when you slept, you got warm, so they'd all the insects and bed bugs, everything would try and attract you. So you'd wrap up and put your trousers in your socks. I had like a pillowcase I put over my head to stop them getting in my mouth. And there's insects everywhere. Yeah. It's like I'm a celebrity. They're all over the ceiling. And for a while before I go to bed at home, I'm kind of looking in my covers for insects and stuff. And I catch myself doing it, going, this is unique. Before I go to bed, I'd check all my stuff, and then I get in bed and I'm not relaxed, and I think there might be something crawling on me, and then I go to sleep and I wake up in a panic. But the whole thing to me was I was almost observing it in the third person. I was almost like, oh, cool. This is something I've never done before, and I got a lot of training done.
The reason you lose is because you've been programmed to lose by all of your experiences throughout life. Winners are programmed, losers are programmed. I was programmed to be a winner in any scenario because I was raised in a very specific way. You were not. So we're going to start at the absolute beginning of why you've ended up a loser, because most of you never self-reflect. You're dummies who never look in the mirror and say, how did I end up where I am? Why am I the person I am? Why do I believe the things I believe? You don't self-analyze. So you don't understand how your own mind works, which means you don't understand why you are where you are. Because before you make a move on the chessboard, you need to analyze your position. By analyzing the board, the smartest thing you can do is to try and take your strengths and play them off against your weaknesses. So if you're poor, you have hunger and motivation, what you have to do is fix the things you don't have. You need to get around rich people. You need to get a good network of people you can trust who have a lot of money. You need to find a teacher who's prepared to teach you how money really works. That's the first thing. The second thing, and your biggest problem to fix, is your monumental laziness. And you have to understand that you innately are lazy. You innately lack hunger and fire. You're innately afraid. You're a coward. You lack the balls it takes in many scenarios to get rich or die trying. That's the truth. People in the ghetto already have the fire. Those brothers already have fire. Yeah. They're already prepared to do anything it takes. You need to ignite the fire inside of you. You need to make sure there's something inside of you that's going to get you motivated like a poor person's hunger because you've never felt it before. Because the poor don't need motivation. The poor understand what it's like to be taken advantage of. And the poor understand what happens when you have no money and no food. You don't. You're not poor. You have food in your fridge, but you lack motivation because you're a dipshit. And that's why you've actually had a very bad start in life. You need, and this is very important, not only do you lack fire, you lack imagination. Because when you're poor, let me tell you something poor people do all the time. You imagine. My brother and I used to sit around and talk about what could be if only we managed to get it out. How it would feel to have this car. How it would feel to be in this place. How it would feel to be famous and internationally renowned. How it would feel to go to Saint-Tropez and live on a yacht. How it would feel to be able to fly on private planes. How it would feel to not have to worry about food anymore. My brother and I used to imagine for hours. We used to talk about it. We believed in this version of reality where we somehow made it. Not only do you lack motivation, you lack imagination. And that's why it's very important. You need to start believing you are the man, even if you're not yet. Before I was world champion, I knew I was going to be world champion. You have to believe these things. We had imagination and we had hunger and fire. You don't have those things. That's why you're fucked. Do you not understand? It doesn't matter how tired I get when I fight. I'm never actually tired because I am so desperate to hurt my opponent. I am more desperate to hurt him than I am tired. In all realms, forever. That is the hunger and motivation. That's why boxers start poor. That's why fighters are poor. There's a different mentality they're born with. They imagine being champion. They're prepared to do anything it takes. They have hunger and fire inside of them. There's no middle class champions. None. So it's extremely important you develop your imagination as well as your fire. And I'm saying this to you because there's a whole bunch of you who don't realize how badly you've failed. You need to start imagining what actual freedom is. You need to start seeing beyond the confines of your comfort. You need to start developing the hunger it's going to take for you to elevate to the highest possible echelons and stop being enslaved by your comfort, because that's what you're enslaved by. It's extremely important. Your future is the result of your daily actions. You're defined by what you do today. Lazy now, loser later. Get to work. Now, what have you done today which is going to positively affect the outcome of your future? When have you sat and imagined your dream life? When have you self-analyzed and self-reflected and tried to work out where you've gone wrong to end up such a mediocre specimen of man? Why can't you go down to the dealer and buy a brand new Lamborghini right now? Why not? Is it a lack of money? Is it a lack of, what is it? Is it only money? Are you afraid if you buy one you'll get robbed? What is stopping you? Have you even thought about any of these things? Has it even crossed your mind? It's extremely important, gentlemen, that you understand the chessboard and understand exactly where you are so you can make changes. Most of you are not actively building a future. You're not actively trying to build the dream life that you want to have. And then you expect it to just appear. Do you know why? Because when you were born in the middle, your parents put food in the fridge. It just appeared. The heating was just on because it was cold outside. We knew you never had that problem. That's why people at the bottom, we understand intricately. We understand this viscerally. We understand that nothing is going to come to us unless we go out there and get it ourselves. And once you have that, you have endless motivation for all things. That is extremely important. You have to train a fighter, a boxer. Do you want somebody who has poor nutrition and poor sleep, but endless fire inside of them, someone poor, to turn them into Muhammad Ali? Or do you want somebody with a good bed and good food, but lacks fire? Which one do you think is going to become a champion? Which boxers have become champion historically across time? Were they rich men? Were they from middle class incomes? Or were they from the ghetto? Were they from the bottom. It is all a test. It's all a test. You watch me because I perform flawlessly, and I'm not afraid to pay the price. You'd be up here with me if you were brave. When I say brave, and this is a genuine question, when is the last time you made a brave decision? When's the last time you took a brave route and did a brave thing? And I want you to actually take a few seconds and ask yourself that question and answer it. Bravery is a muscle like every other one that must be flexed and used to grow. Bravery is extremely important, and Bitcoin's a super easy answer. What's the worst that can happen? You lose your money? Do you think people like us were afraid to buy crypto once we worked it out? Once we were told about Bitcoin at $800, do you think we were afraid to buy it because we might lose money? Do you not understand? People like us don't give a fuck. That's how we end up here. Oh, you're lacking hunger. You're scared to be brave. You're lazy.
I don't want to put my $6,000 into Bitcoin. I might lose it.
Because you lack bravery. So, if you've done nothing brave that you can mention instantly off the top of your head, then what you need to do is something brave quickly. I'm not quitting. That's called handing the prize to somebody else. There are a certain number of prizes in the universe. There are stars that exist. They're just out there. There's prizes. So the people at the bottom have something that you don't have. It's hunger. You need to now, and this is the actionable, guys, you need to cultivate a lifestyle which is going to endlessly give you fire inside of your heart so that you never struggle with motivation ever again. You need to cultivate that with your social circle. So you need to be around motivated, hungry men. You need to cultivate it with the decisions you make. If smoking weed kills your fire, don't smoke weed. If drinking booze kills your fire, don't drink booze. Everything you need to do. If drinking booze gives you fire, then drink it. I don't care. But you need to sit down and look at your life and say, what's going to make me as motivated as possible? Is it developing an imagination to imagine my dream life? I'm sure it is. Is it having a social circle of people who are always trying to elevate? I'm sure it is. Is it having a girlfriend who supports me in all of my dreams? I'm sure it is. You need to then sit there, look at every facet of your life, analyze it one by one, and develop a lifestyle which is going to give you endless fire, because without it, you are going to lose. You are broken inside. You are lacking a fire inside of you, because once you get that fire, you become invincible. The fire inside of your heart makes you hard to kill, truthfully. It's the fire inside of your heart that makes you uncrushable. The kind of cockroach which survives a nuclear explosion. It is extremely important that you are never in a position where you lack motivation ever again. It is extremely important that you never fuck up an opportunity that is handed to you ever again. And these things are conscious choices you make by changing your lifestyle. There's nothing stopping you from winning besides yourself. I have now given you an actionable. The actionable is for you to design your life around getting endless motivation and fire in all ways. Everything you do needs to be deliberately geared and designed towards giving you motivation and making you feel hunger inside of yourself. Then you must take all of that fire, turn it into positive energy, and exude it out into the universe. If you want it to rain and you don't know what to do a rain dance. Perhaps the rain dance will not make the clouds seed. However, God will be happy that you're taking action as opposed to just sitting still, quietly waiting for rain to appear while being submissive and subservient. No, you have to go out there and do things. God wants to see you take care of what he has given you. Nobody continues to give gifts to the ungrateful. This is absolutely true about life. It's extremely important that you show God that you deserve it. Your discipline will shape your destiny, but it is extremely easy to be disciplined if all you've ever known is struggle. Guys, you as a man should be offended by the fact that my brother and I started miles below you and have surpassed you in every single human metric. That should bother you. But you should also sit there and go, why are they beating me? They started below me. They started the race way back there. And I was so lazy and so stupid, and I took life for granted, and I expected everything to be given to me, that these guys have managed to lap me and surpass me based purely on hunger and grit alone. They had no advantages. All they had was this innate desire to do anything it took. Now is the time. Every single day you need to wake up, take action, and get things done. And we are waiting for you up here at the top.
The whole field, the whole industry, the whole way we view depression, the way we view happiness, the way we view sadness is all garbage from head to toe. I think it's all bullshit. We can throw the whole thing out the window. And I start, again, when people come to me and say about happiness, and I say, Who the fuck said you should be happy in the first place? Who even said you should be? I don't care if you're sad. I never told you should be happy. How many push-ups can you do? Not enough. Get to fucking work. So this is my whole view on the whole field.
I have no interest in being happy. I wake up and say, how can I be proud of myself? What can I achieve that makes me proud of myself? How can I do things that make other people respect me and are proud of me? How do I have a day which I complete when I come home? The woman who's in my house says, wow, there's no man like you. How do I live a life so my children look at me and go, Dad's a superhero? How do I make my mother call me and say, I couldn't possibly be more proud of you? I have duties to complete. I have to live the exact same life regardless of how I feel. So for me, happiness is not a good indicator on how life should be lived. Happiness to me is a super interesting concept because when people come to me and say, I'm not happy, I say, why should you be happy? They're like, what do you mean? It's like, who told you should be happy all the time without working for it? Happiness is at the top of a mountain somewhere. You ain't been anywhere. You haven't even climbed it.
Happiness is the number one thing that must be earned. And I'll tell you that my happiness is based on very real world achievements. I couldn't be happy if I was broke. I couldn't be happy if I was obese. I couldn't be happy if I was lonely. I couldn't be happy if I wasn't respected. I couldn't be happy if I couldn't whoop a dude's ass. I couldn't be happy in those scenarios. So I made sure none of them scenarios came true. I have earned my happiness via hard work. It's the top of a mountain, which I have climbed. I deserve it. I deserve to go to sleep with a smile on my fucking face and wake up between two bitches. That's what I fucking deserve. And every single guy who hasn't got it probably doesn't deserve it. The universe is very giving and very fair. People seem to think that the world is unfair, and those are all the same people who tell themselves they're unlucky. I actually believe the opposite. I believe the universe is a very giving place. I believe God is a very giving being, and that the world all in all generally balances out and is pretty fair. If you're the kind of person who deserves a good life and works their ass off and genuinely wants it and tries very hard, guess what you get 99% of the time? A good life. And if you're the kind of person who doesn't really deserve it, slacks 3 days a week, a little bit lazy, snakes his friends, talks behind people's back, blah, 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 guess what? Your life ain't all that good. The universe is pretty fair and pretty balanced. I've yet to meet somebody who gets up every day, does what they're supposed to do, works hard, goes to the gym, then goes to work, does their best, makes their money, looks after it, is sensible, doesn't blow it, et cetera, who then fails. I've never met anybody who fails when they do all the right things. The universe is a very fair and giving place all in all. There are very few exceptions to that. So when I see somebody who doesn't have the success they want, especially when I see, let's say, a group of people who don't have the success they want, there's no way you're all exceptions to that rule. You may want something, but you certainly don't deserve it. And that's why you don't have it.
You shouldn't wake up and say, how happy am I today? How does that affect how I act? That's not how I operate. I wake up and say, what must be done? What will allow me to be proud of myself? What will allow me to achieve? And those things will be done regardless of how I feel. And that's how the most successful people on earth all operate. The most successful people on earth don't only do things because they feel happy about doing them. As a man, you have a burden of performance. As a man, you shouldn't be waking up going, how do I get happy? As a man, you wake up and say, okay, how do I perform? You know, and happiness will come at the end of the performance anyway. But if your number one goal as a man, if your number one mission in life is just to be happy, it could be an extremely vaporous existence, and you're not going to be a man of substance. The men of substance out there are not necessarily happy people. Mike Tyson wasn't happy when he was smashing people's faces in. That's not how you get there. You don't get there being happy. If you're unhappy with your life and you're depressed, I don't expect you to be popping pills and sitting laying in bed. I expect you to give me a huge list of everything you're achieving per day. Depression's a fantastic motivation, but people are told the opposite. No, you feel depressed. That's wrong. You should be happy anyway. Take the pills, stay home, take some time off. Complete garbage. You're depressed. Okay, get up, go for a run, lift more weights, make more money, get a second job, get more girls. Like you can outrun depression. The whole world doesn't give a fuck if men are happy or not. Nobody cares about men being happy. We talk about women being happy. We want children to be happy. If you look at a full-grown man on Christmas morning, he's smiling because his wife is smiling. He's smiling because his children are smiling. Nobody even buys him anything. What do they buy the dad? Socks? Nobody cares about men being happy.
If I feel sad, it does not change how I act, and it does not change the things I do. If I don't feel like going to the gym, I go to the gym. If I don't feel like working, I will still work. A lot of these people come to me and they say, oh, but I feel this way. I don't put a huge amount of importance on emotions. It's not that I don't feel them. It's that I don't think they have much to do with anything at all. If I wake up in a happy mood and I have a business to run and females to cater for and things to do, if I wake up in a sad mood, I have the same shit to do. I'm going to get it done. This modern obsession with happiness is the number one problem with the world. Because I really don't believe humans were ever evolved to be happy. Mm-hmm. Were we? Tell me, you're the expert, bro. Where did it come in our timeline that we were supposed to be happy all the time? Who gives a fuck how you feel? Like, your emotion has nothing to do with the harsh reality of this world. You're either successful or you're not. Life is binary. You either win or you lose. You survive or you don't.
Happy or sad, the push-ups must be done. It's called duty. It's called honor. It's called pride. If you had these things, you would never do dumb shit in the first place. So I'm asking you why you don't have them. You could be a genuine force for good in the world. And you know what's funny? The funniest thing, the most ironic thing about all of this is that if you don't prioritize happiness and you prioritize feeling proud of yourself, you end up happy by extension. I'm happy because I'm proud of myself because I have a fucking fantastic life and mansions and supercars and money, most famous man in the world, thousands of love letters a week from beautiful women, street credit in every single fucking city on earth. Of course I'm happy, but I didn't ever choose to try and be happy. If I would have chosen to try and be happy, I would have never ended up happy.
So when people come to me and say, I'm not happy, I say, why should you be happy? And we're all adults here. This infantile mindset that we're all supposed to be like we were when we were 3 years old and, oh, something shiny, laugh all the time, run around in circles, ooh, a cardboard box. We're grown-ups and we have responsibilities and we have problems and we have pressure. And you don't necessarily have to be happy to perform, especially if you're a man. I say this all the time. You should never adopt the thinking of someone who is sad. And most people who are out here giving their life advice, if you sit there and go, are you happy? Well, yeah, I'm pretty happy. You're on antidepressants, or you were depressed last year, or you're talking about, like, most of these people giving advice out, you wouldn't even want to be them. So why would you listen to them? I'm not going to listen to anybody unless they're happier than me. Otherwise, I'm never going to listen, you know? So yeah, it's being rooted out by the mainstream because they want all of us as slaves. They want us as slaves. The people who are in charge of the world need people to clean their cars and build their boats. Slaves. That's all it is.
Your wife breaks your heart. If you're not going to work, you can't sleep anymore. You're upset. She's running around with a new dude. You see her Instagram story. She got some new guy. You're furious and you're angry and you're jealous and you're bitter. You have all of this inside of you, but you're not going to go to the gym and work hard and become so fantastically in shape and so rich and so powerful that no girl ever leaves you again. You're not going to do that. No. What are you going to do with it? Text her? Try and explain to her? She doesn't care. Like, you can write the most perfect English. You can write the most beautiful words ever constructed. Forget Shakespeare. You can do, it doesn't matter. She doesn't care. She just doesn't care. She's distracted.
She forgot about you.
She forgot about you. So what are you going to do with all of that inside of you if it's not positive? Well, it's going to consume you and you're going to end up self-destructive, or you're going to embarrass yourself, or you can take all of that and put yourself in a position where it never happens to you again. Those are the choices. So what's the most intelligent choice to make?
Yeah.
You know, I don't understand how many humans function in the world today. I don't get people who don't think like me. I don't understand it. I'm like, well, then how have you survived this long? Life is hard. Life is difficult. Maybe I've just been unlucky, which I don't believe in, but I've had so much trauma and bad events and negativity and stress and all these things that have happened to me. And I've used all of it to be monumentally successful. People are functioning. If you're not thinking like me and you're going through life with any other mindset, you've been extremely fortunate that God smiled on you and allowed you to sit around most of the time doing jack shit. And you have yet to be punished for that. Yeah. I could never have lived that life. If I was a bit lazy or a bit, you know, or I was a bit of a snake, or if I lied to people, I'd be dead by now. Yeah. Like, so a lot of these people are just absolutely and utterly blessed by God that they managed to go through life with such a non-competitive mindset and they still breathing. Like, I don't understand how people can think any other way. Yeah. I've spoken to dudes and like, yeah, you know, I had a bad couple months. Why? Oh, my girl left me. You've wasted months. You've wasted months. Oh, like you had think of how much God loves you to have given you the grace and given you the opportunity to waste months of human time over some chick. Like, talk about blessed head to toe. If I waste months, empires are going to collapse. I'm going to end up in a cell or dead if I waste months. I have things to do every single day. I can't waste a second. Like, these people are just absolutely infinitely blessed. And their mindset is a product of that because they're spoiled children. Absolutely spoiled children. Because there's a whole bunch of people out here daily who fail. There are men out here who fail daily and they have yet to feel the true consequence for it. They fail to go to the gym when they know they should have gone to the gym. They fail because they forgot their keys and it took them 10 minutes to find them. They fail because they replied to a question they got sent on WhatsApp the wrong way. They fail because they didn't smile when they were supposed to. They didn't say please and thank you to that person who helped them. They fail because they didn't say hi to that girl who's looking at them out the corner of their eye. They just fail perpetually. They go through life missing every opportunity and just failing. And somehow we've built a society which is so soft and God is so giving and so graceful that they still have a place to eat
and somewhere to sleep, and they're still surviving. That shows how nice God is. Yeah. Because before this society, truthfully, if you were that level of failure, you would be dead.
Survival of the fittest.
Survival of the fittest. And none of these men out here are fit. No. Their mindset isn't fit. Their reality isn't fit. They're failures. They're failures. Yeah. And they're just failing every single day. And they go, oh, but you know what? Tomorrow I'll go to the gym. Yeah. You've been failing your whole life. That's all you've done is fail. And then you sit and wonder why people like me absolutely and utterly outcompete you. It is so easy to become a top tier male in the world today because the competition is so ridiculously low. There are 2% killers like me, and everybody else amateur, head to toe amateur. They can't even pay attention to anything. They can't try anything. They're amateurs. And it's really mind blowing to me because I've tried with all of my computational power to imagine having a mindset different to mine. And I just can't see a reality worth having. I can't see a reality worth living. I can't see how you're going to build a life worth experiencing if you have any other mindset. I've never seen somebody massively succeed and they didn't believe in themselves, ever. I've never seen somebody who just allows life to happen to them and become blown off course by some sadness, end up doing massively monumental and important things. I've never seen it. It does, and it's never going to happen because it's competitor. It's like crypto. It's player versus player. Right. I can sit here right now at power. I can sit here right now and recall events that will prevent me from sleeping for 2 to 3 days. That gives me a superpower that other men do not have. They want to go to sleep. They're tired. I can stop being tired for days at a time. I can just have a thought. I can remember. I can sit, close my eyes, and use the power of my brain to vividly remember events, and I will not sleep for days. And when people come to me and say, oh, this happened, I'm really sad, or my heart broke, or this bad thing happened to me, I say, good. Thank the Lord that he's given you this endless source of motivation. You're wasting it. That's your problem. But it's been given to you. Nitrous oxide has been given to you. You just have to use it in the correct way. So I'm the luckiest man in the world because all the bad things that happened to me have given me all the building blocks to become the most fantastic man on the face of the planet.
Grief. No one escapes it. Not the rich, not the poor. Not the famous, not the infamous. Grief is a natural response to loss. Often the pain of loss can feel overwhelming. You may have all kinds of unexpected emotions. You can be angry. You can have disbelief. You can have guilt. There isn't a person listening to me who hasn't encountered grief. You've lost somebody. You've been through some things. Maybe it was the loss of an opportunity. Maybe it was the slow disintegration of a relationship that was once a source of love, and now it is a source of pain. No tear ducts will go unused in this life. The moment the doctor slapped your bottom, you came out of your mama crying. There is no way around it. There is no injection for grief. No medication for grief. It doesn't matter how intellectual you might be, how wealthy, or even how spiritual you may be. Grief without discrimination comes to everybody. Don't let these people deceive you that they are so spiritual they don't know what it is to have grief. They are liars. Every last one of them are absolute liars. While grief is common to all of us, prolonged grief can be physically and emotionally debilitating. Can affect your health. Can affect your mind. It can affect the next relationship you have because you really haven't gotten over your past relationship. How long? How long will you mourn? You should have overcome your grief by now. How long will you weep? How long will you be bitter? How long will you be angry? How long will you sob and mourn and walk around enraged? What good is it getting a divorce if you're still going to be mad? If you're still going to be writing notes and wondering, did you see him and who was he with? You are not divorced. I don't care what the paper says. You are still married. How long? God says, how long will you mourn over a door I have closed? How long will you mourn over a marriage that's over, a job that's gone, a girlfriend that left, a boyfriend that left? How long? How long will you be angry and frustrated and build your whole life around something that is dead?
If you're going to fulfill your destiny, you have to get good at letting things go. Jesus said, offenses will come. Disappointments will come. Betrayals, things that are not fair will come. How you handle the hurts will determine whether you move forward or whether you get stuck, bitter over what didn't work out. How many people are living wounded over how they were raised, a friend that walked away? They wonder why they don't have good relationships. It's because they haven't healed. God brings a new person, but they're so insecure. This new person has to keep them fixed. The problem is that's not sustainable. Until you let go of what didn't work out, that wound is going to hinder you wherever you go.
You would be shocked at the people who get up every morning with a heart full of grief. And it comes out in their speech, and it comes out in that snappy way they confront you, and you think they're mean. They're not really mean. They're still grieving. How long? How long does it take to get over a person? How long will you put your future on hold, mulling over your past? How long? I came to get somebody unstuck. I came to get somebody free. You cannot spend your rest of your life grieving over who didn't love you, who wasn't there for you. You're stuck. God did not create you to be stuck with a heart full of grief. It's why you can't fall in love. It's not that there's nobody to love. It's that you haven't gotten over who you used to love. How long will you be angry? How long will you keep checking their Facebook page? How long will you keep investigating somebody who's not even thinking about you anymore? How long will you mourn around the tomb of what didn't work out? There are some times in your life that you got to get up, wash your face, go on with your life. Life is too short for grieving over who didn't want you, who left you, the job you didn't get, the house that you didn't close on. How long? I don't know who I'm preaching to. You are not yourself. You were not created for this. You were not created to be stuck like this. God wants your nerves and cells and bone and muscles to move. Somebody shout, move. I will not spend the rest of my life hanging around the cemetery of what could have been, what ought to have been.
Look, man, if you got something that's been bothering you in your life, get past it. Don't lay there wallowing in your past, man. Your past is back there.
It's much more freeing when you learn to let things go. Wasn't fair? That's okay. God will be your vindicator. They hurt you once. Don't let them continue to hurt you by holding on to it. Living in mourning is going to keep the new doors from opening.
I want you to think about somebody that caused you some pain. Let me tell you something about the mind. Tell you something super stupid that I used to do. Do you know for years I hated my mother and my father, whoever they were, because they gave me away? And guess what? I didn't have any faces for the hatred because I never saw either one of them. And then once I forgave them and said, had they not given me away, I would have never been blessed to have the mother that I have, who to me is the greatest mother in the world. You can't change the past, but you can reinterpret how you see it. Give an interpretation that empowers you. Let that luggage go. Think about somebody that you've hurt, somebody that you've disappointed, or someone that has hurt you. Look at them in your mind's eye and say, I forgive you. Boy, that's a heavy load to let off.
I want you to live in a continual process of forgiveness. Every day, we should be ready to forgive. I've learned life is full of wounded people. At times, they'll be disrespectful. They'll say things they shouldn't. You can't stop the offense from coming, but you can keep it from getting down in you. Joel, I can't forgive them. You don't know what they did. You're not doing it for their sake. You're doing it for your sake. Let it go. You have to give it to God.
Getting hit and hitting back, that's the essence of life. It's the essence of business. It's the essence of everything. We're all going to fight. You're either fighting the system or you're fighting your own brain. You need to make a choice.
The whole reason God put men on this planet is to suffer. And the best men are the ones who suffered the most. I wouldn't be top G if I didn't suffer more than anyone else. You're a better man than everyone else if your life was a mess and it was a hardship, because you're not what happens to you. You are how you react to it. And the best men on earth are men who have had their parents die, their best friends betray them, their girl betray them, thrown in jail, their money stolen, stabbed, robbed. And every time something happened to them, they sat there and they looked in the mirror and said, what can I learn from this? How can I stop this happening? Those are the best men. Those are the men respect. Those are the men women want. Why do women love scars? Look, they tried to kill him and they can't. That's why I want him. The best men suffered. You find a man who's never been through suffering and nobody gives a shit about him. Men don't like him and women don't like him. Men are no good without it.
I don't know what's happened to men in the world today. They have none of this fire. Men used to wake up and walk in random directions with their friends. No Google Maps, no idea where they were going. Just walk in random directions to find people who were different to them and just conquer it. Just take it. Savages. You're supposed to have that inside of you, but enough brains to direct it in the correct direction to not end up in jail. But to wake up and say, no, I'm supposed to live a fantastic life. I'm supposed to be a king. Do you understand that me, Andrew Tate, I'm treated like a king? Restaurants don't even charge me. Oh, Mr. Tate, thank you for coming for free. I don't make reservations. I turn up. I can take anyone's girl off the table. I'm a king. How do you live as anything less? You know, I've done it. Doesn't that bother you? I say these things and there's two kinds of people. People who get angry and they're like, yeah, I need to live like that because I'm only going to live once. And then there's people who hard cope. They just cope. Oh, yeah, well, you know what? You're an idiot because it's from some anon account. The copers will never get anywhere. Any of you with a brain should just be angry. Like, my car costs more than your life, your house, everything. It's not even all about money. It's about the fact that, to me, the car is nothing. It's like, whatever, cheap, quick, whatever. Who cares? I want one. To you, it's a dream that will never come true. I don't know where the savagery in men has gone. It needs to come back, and it needs to come back in the correct direction. Anger is an extremely powerful motivating force. You should be angry. Too angry to sleep, too angry to be lazy. You don't struggle with motivation when you're angry. When you're furious, you're very motivated.
Anyone who knows me will tell you, if I'm awake, I'm working. I'm awake, I'm working. From the second I wake up, I'm on my laptop till the second I go to sleep. First thing I do when I wake up is check my phone. First thing I do is I work. And if I even do anything fun, I kill all the fun because I make it work. Oh, we have to film it. Oh, get this, need this scene. Filming having fun is not having fun ever. So I make it work. So I only enjoy work. I like to work because I like to feel proud of myself. I don't want to be happy. I want to feel proud of myself. So I rest when I sleep. Sure. If I'm ultimately tired and need a few extra hours in bed every once in a while, yeah. Okay, I'll do that. But I never just have a day. Tristan, back me up. Have I ever said I need a day where I just need a day off? Have you ever heard me say I need a day off? No. Ever. Like I work all the time. I think I've always understood that you can outwork people. Yes. You can truly outwork people, and you can outwork a lot of things about yourself as well. You can outwork a lot of negative emotions. You can outwork a lot of problems in your mind. Like people sit and say, oh, I'm unhappy or I'm sad. You don't have time. How do you find the time in the day
to sit around thinking about being sad. Like, you have shit to do. Like, I don't have time to sit around and contemplate how I feel because I'm busy. So how do you even have time for that? I've had people sit and give me long trotes on how they feel. And I'm like, where did you even come up with this shit? How long have you been sitting around just thinking about nothing? I don't have time for it. A plane defies gravity with speed. That's all it does. If a plane stops moving forward, what happens? It falls down, right? So if you can do the same thing with yourself and your mentality and your problems and everyone else around you, you can outwork everybody. So I've always understood outworking people. And I also think that it's very easy to work hard and win when you're already winning. It's hard to get there. It starts off harder. It's harder to find a way to make money and work all the time and deal with all the bullshit and be at the bottom of whatever industry you're in and not have any reputation, whatever. But if I were to say to all of you right now, for every minute you body spar, you get $1,000. I guarantee we'd still be out there right now sparring. Everyone would be like, all right. So like, once you get to the point, like in my position where I know if I put the time in, I'm going to win, then how can I stop now?
Why do some men do what they do? Why did Elon decide to put rockets in space instead of just retire? He was rich after PayPal. Why?
That's fair.
Why did Alexander the Great need all that land? Why did men go to the Antarctic to try and cross the icy, barren, empty plains and freeze to death to just be the first men who did it? Why do that? You can't even put it on Facebook back then. Who gives a shit? Some men are built different, sir. Some men want to do it because it hasn't been done. And that is the reason why. They do not need much more motivation than the fact they will be first. There isn't much motivation to get on a rocket and be the first man on the moon because the probability is you're going to die or get stuck up there and never make it back. Or even if you do go and you do come back, half the people on earth won't believe you went at all. So why would you do that unless you're just that kind of guy? The fact that you will say to me, but it puts a target on your head shows me that God will never, ever give you my position of influence because along the way, you will have so many chances to be which you will take, which will prevent you from ever getting to my echelon of capability and influence and power. Because if I gave a about having a target on my head at all, I wouldn't be sitting here right now and I wouldn't have the ability to do the things I can do.
That's fair.
So I don't care. I'm doing it because it must be done. There's an opportunity for it to be done, and I can do it better than anybody else.
Your mind and your body and your soul, created by God, have a degree of innate understanding of what's right and what's wrong. And if you go against that, you're going to feel guilt and you're going to feel shame and you're going to feel uneasy and you're not going to feel normal. If you're going to go through life and accept all the garbage they tell you to put inside of your brain, I don't believe you can be happy that way. I don't believe you can be a happy individual walking around pretending that blue is green, pretending that green is red, like staying in your house, being fearful, being afraid, hating your fellow man, believing in these narratives that there's no way you can ever get ahead because you're systematically oppressed and held down by some whatever. And if you absorb all this crap, you're going to be an unhappy person. So I think that either your mind is right and you're happy and you're resisting against the matrix, or you're an unhappy person who's absorbed the matrix programming and you're resisting against yourself. We're all going to fight. You're either fighting the system or you're fighting your own brain. You need to make a choice. Now, I personally would rather fight the system than sit inside of a self-destructive cycle looking at myself in the mirror. Yes, I need my 8th injection. Yes, I'm so sad. Like, that sounds worse to me than being canceled. So you can cancel me. But this battle's here for everyone. And I think if the world understood that and if people understood that, a lot more of them would stand up. Mm-hmm. But they think they can avoid it and they can't.
Everyone's obsessed with the positive experiences, but nobody is chasing any kind of negative experience, which is why, I chose fighting, right? Yeah. But I believe every man should be choosing to do something which is extremely hard, which they hate, which sucks because you don't appreciate life at all without it. The reason people are taking so many drugs, for example, the reason people chase higher highs all the time and the reason they're constantly taking drugs and trying to and drink more alcohol and chasing higher highs all the time is because they don't experience any lows. Mm-hmm. So you always want a higher high, but I promise you the high you're at is fine if you balance it with a little bit of low. If you bounce down there for a week and come back to where you were, you're good. Constantly chasing higher highs is hedonism, which ends in one place. Mm-hmm. It always ends in a downward spiral, right? And butt sex, like the whole city of LA.
You're obsessed with butt sex.
Well, hey, bro, it's your city. So you need to stay away from constantly chasing those things. You need to
artificially manufacture some lows. I chose fighting because fighting will do that for you. It's hard. It's stressful. You're worried. You train all the time. You're exhausted. You win, you lose, you get hurt, you go hospital. There's a lot of negatives in it, but there's not enough negatives in men's lives today. But you're asking me about jail as if it's a good or bad thing, or if I'm worried about going back. But to me, all experiences are on an even level playing field. Whether it's a good experience or a bad experience, it doesn't matter. There's experiences and then there's comfort. And it doesn't matter if you're a good experience or a bad experience. As long as you're on the experiences side, I'm happy for you. My father died, which was a negative experience, but you learn a lot from it. It was an experience. It was a period of life where I was learning and growing, as was jail, as was sitting in the Bugatti meeting, as was buying a jet, as will be conquering the crypto space, as will be getting fucking stabbed when he finally gets hold of me and I can't block it with my hand. That's life.
Every time something bad happens to you, you are your most competitive if you are motivated by it, right? So getting hit and hitting back, that's the essence of life. It's the essence of business. It's the essence of everything. So absolutely. So sparring is a fantastic way to put it out, but also in every single thing that happens in your life, whenever anything bad happens to you, you can be motivated by it. Tristan said in jail, he quoted the Count of Monte Cristo. Was it 13 years in the Chateau d'If? Then the world is mine. So he's saying, we got hit, we got thrown in jail. And the story of the Count of Monte Cristo is a really long story, but he gets thrown in jail unfairly. He comes out of jail, becomes one of the wealthiest and most powerful men in the world, and then gets loads of revenge on all the people who put him in jail. And Tristan kept saying, 13 years in the Chateau d'If, because he spent 13 years in jail, and then the world is mine. So even when we got hit with a matrix attack, it excited us. We're like, they put us in jail, but now everyone talks about us. Okay, we'll get out one day. 10 years, 5 years, one day we'll get out. How do we take that attention? How do we monetize it? How do we become bigger and better? The people who have attacked me are furious. They made me more famous than ever before. So when we were in jail, when bad things were happening to us, we were literally sitting there planning. Cool. What's going to happen when we're out? Fine. We're going to have a bunch of interviews. I need to be on point. I need to be sharper. Give me a dictionary. I need to learn new words. What's going to happen if we're going to bring this unfortunate clip up? What am I going to say? What's going to happen if they try to attack me from this angle? You have to plan and you have to fight. You have to be excited by it. So getting hit by things, you can either go, I got beat up. It's so hard. I'm in jail. I miss my family. Or you can go, okay. Give me all the time I need to prepare for my counterattack, my revenge. I'm just getting started. I think that a lot of people don't understand that it's all of the challenges and struggles that's going to make them, it's either going to make or break them. I don't read studies very often, but I was sent a study about stress from somebody. It's probably the best study I ever read. And it's talked about the placebo effect of stress. And it said that they took some of the most stressed people in the world, CEOs, etc. And the ones who believed that stress was really bad for them were dying earlier because of the cortisol inside of their blood. And they said stress was really bad for them. They were having heart attacks. But the ones who believed that stress was good for them and it made them perform, I perform under pressure, stress is good for me, they were living longer. So the same drug inside of their blood, how they framed it inside of their mind had different effects on their body. So from that point onwards, even though I already thought this way, I knew I was the right way. I knew it was the right way to think innately because I've done pretty good in life that way. But this confirmed it. Every time I feel stressed or under pressure, I get excited. I hate to not be stressed. I wake up and I'm like, everything's good. Yes. Like that's just how I am, right? But it's how you adopt, it's how you look at the problems and how you use them to fuel you. So the question was, what's the problem for the average man today? What's the biggest problem? I think there's a whole host of problems. But what you have to do is frame it inside of your mind and understand that all of those problems are going to allow you, give you the fuel, the unlimited motivation that you need to become a successful and beautiful individual if you frame it in the right way. If you take a man and give him a life shielded from problems and he never has any to face, I guarantee you he's terrible at being a man. The best men in the world have gone through shit. That's why women love scars, because it didn't kill you. That's the whole point of it, right? So the best thing you can do as a man is look and go, okay, this is hard, this is hard, this is hard, this is hard. I feel negative because these are all so difficult. I'm struggling with X, Y, Z. Let me internalize all of that and turn it into a superpower. Let me become genuinely uncomfortable with my situation in life and go and fix things. Because like I said, the universe is absolutely and utterly very giving. And if you truly hated being in the position you were in, you wouldn't be there very long. So I think that the number one problem with the world today and the biggest problem that men face isn't the problems themselves. It's just the way that they've been taught to mentally frame issues. People think when bad things happen to them that somehow they're a victim to the universe and bad things only happen to me and this is so terrible. They don't understand that bad things happen to everybody. And the most successful person you know had all those probably, maybe even worse, at least the same bad things happened to them. They just framed it differently and used it. That's the difference. So
I'm happy for all of it. Jail, matrix attacks, everything. But I just look around me at all these other men. They have no savagery about them. There's no conqueror spirit, nothing. Genghis Khan had the whole world and still wanted more. As did the Romans, as did the British. Like the days of old, nothing was enough. The world was not enough. All of it. Everything. That's how I function. I see people like, oh yeah, you know, I've got a BMW. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. I could buy 100 new cars today and I still would be like, nah, should have bought 101. You can be very happy and also extremely discontent. I know my life is perfect objectively. I'm realistic to know that I've got one of the best experiences on the planet. I understand that. But I'm also waking up every day on fire to get more, which is how I got here in the first place. Lacking motivation is just lacking the basic masculine essence of a conquest. Which means you were born to be conquered. Because you're either conquering or you're conquered. There's no in-betweens in this reality. You're either going to end up a peon in someone else's empire or you're going to forge your own. Or you can unite with a band of brothers and be a knight or a nobleman within a brotherhood, which is genuinely conquering Earth. Or Tristan, he'll say, oh, Andrew's the top G, fine. But I am the number 2 in command of a huge, vastly wealthy empire. I just don't understand. And I'm saying this randomly as I'm driving. I just look into the cars of people around me and they're just so cucked. I don't understand how they're living these existences. And even worse, if you're that cucked, if you're that happy with the baseline medium, if you're that happy with the norm, you can't compete against the outliers. Outliers are always going to wake up and say, I'd rather lose everything than not have everything. I can't live this mediocre existence. I'd rather lose everything I have in pursuit. Get rich or die trying. How can you outcompete that man? His mind is there. He's ready for all eventualities, for exceptionalism, an exceptional reality. If you ever find yourself struggling with motivation, you need to understand that you're broken as a man. Men don't struggle with motivation. That's one thing men don't struggle with. Because a man is never happy. He's never content. He's constantly looking to conquer and take over and get more and more and more.
Why did Christopher Columbus get on a boat? I don't know. You tell me.
Valid.
Maybe he should have just sat at home with his money, getting jobs, having sex, and no, have kids. Don't take any risks. Don't put a target on your head. Why do that? You could just have sex and stay home. You could have sat around having a degenerate hedonistic life and nobody would fucking remember his name. Or perhaps he thought, fuck it, I'm going to risk my life and do something different. The target on my head doesn't cross my mind. I don't care. If you're going to work. If you're going to chill, then chill. You don't want to be a dim light that's half on. You want to do one or the other. Now, I find chilling and relaxing, I guess this is my personality, it makes it easy, extremely stressful. There's nothing more stressful for me than trying to not do my work. Because if I'm not doing my work, then I'm thinking about the work I'm supposed to do, and I'm more stressed than doing the work. So everyone goes, Andrew, you need to just chill. I'm like, that sounds terrible. That sounds like the most stressful situation to be in. So all I want to do is work, right? But if you're going to do something, you should be doing your absolute best at it. What's the point in doing anything if you're not going to do your best at it? Right? And it's amazing how things can translate, right? If you do your best in one thing, it's not only the fact that the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, but if you do your best in one thing, it can radiate out across your entire life. That's the greatest thing about being a man. As a man, when you upgrade your life and you become a better man, by extension, you automatically improve the lives of all of your friends, of your woman, of your children, of your community, of your country. We radiate. It's amazing. You can put a little bit more effort in bed with your girlfriend, make her a little bit happier. She'll then cook your breakfast, gives you a little bit extra time to work. Before you know it, you got a Bugatti. Boom. That's how I got mine. But putting in that extra effort pays off, dividends.
And you can look at it spiritually. You can be philosophical about it and say that God rewards people who try hard. That's how I like to see it. God is literally looking at all of us, no matter which God you believe in, and he's saying, all these people I've created, who's thankful? Right? Because any one of us could have lost our eyesight to bacteria at age 2. Any one of us. And we didn't. So he's saying, who's thankful enough for what they have that they're trying their absolute best with it all of the time? Because if you do that, he's like, I like this guy. I like him. He's cool. Give him blessings. Give him something. It's amazing what comes your way. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm extremely difficult on myself. And I will say right now, the only thing I've really tried my best at is to stay out of jail. And that's not because I'm afraid of jail. That's because I know my haters are going to seethe when I walk. That's my motivation. If someone were to say to me, Andrew, if you make an extra $1 or if you throw an extra punch, endless blessings will come your way, it would be disingenuous for me to sit and say I couldn't do that.
For me, what I decide what's true and what isn't is the things that allow me to become most competitive. Depression is not real because that allows me to become more competitive. I don't give a shit what paperwork you pull out your ass and which depressed person or psychologist comes in here and tries to explain to me how depression works. I'm more competitive if I don't believe in it. Because then when bad things happen to me, it doesn't cross my mind that I might catch depression. It is not even an idea in my me and Tristan are in jail. Everyone's depressed. We're smoking cigarettes and dancing around. We can't be depressed because we don't believe in it. So I'll only adopt ideas that make me hyper competitive. And sometimes that's going to make you very humble. Sometimes it's very competitive to think, shit, I might lose here. Sometimes competitive to be delusional and think you can't lose. If you corner me and there's no way out but to fight and 10 men are going to try and kill me, I'm going to believe I can win. Delusional, maybe, but it makes me most competitive. That's what I believe. I've decided. My brain works that way. Which mindset is the most competitive? Which mindset is the most useful to me right now? Which emotion is the most useful to me? I change emotions. We can all change our emotions if we really want to. You could all think yourself sad. You could all think yourself happy. Everyone can do it, but people take too long to do it. You need 10 minutes. Get good at it. Give yourself a few seconds. And then you have to decide which emotion puts me in the most competitive state right now. And you'll often find that happy is not one you choose very often. It's not a competitive emotion to be happy. Oh, I'm happy. Then you don't get shit done. I like to feel proud all the time. I like to feel, proud is certainly my favorite default emotion. I like to be proud of what I've done and who I am and what I have. Proud is what I always revert to, which allows me to be competitive. I don't have time to think anything that isn't competitive. Anything that makes me non-competitive to me is not true. So I know exactly what you're saying. I could argue that there are universal truths to the universe, and there are. But if we're going to accept the mind frame that we all live in our own truth, which I guess is the way the world's going, because then your truth needs to be, okay, which mindset, which belief makes me the most competitive, fearsome individual? And then you should adopt that, and then you should be as successful as humanly possible.